The warning lights had been flashing red for 3 days now, and Chief Engineer Zixtel was running out of options. He stood in the control room of Mining Station Veltar, watching the reactor temperature readings climb higher every hour. The massive station floated in the asteroid belt of Proxima System, far from any help, and its main power core was dying. Zixtel's 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced speed. His blue-gray skin had turned pale with worry, and his large black eyes reflected the warning lights that blinked all around him. 3,000 Catherians lived on this station, and their lives depended on keeping the reactor stable. "Sir, the thermal regulators are failing faster now," said his assistant, Morden. The younger engineer's voice shook with fear. "We have maybe 2 days before complete system failure." Zixtel closed his eyes and tried to think. The Catherian people had been mining asteroids for over 200 years. Their technology was solid and reliable, but this reactor was old. Very old. It had been built when his grandfather was young, and the replacement parts they needed simply did not exist anymore. What about the emergency supplies? Zixtel asked, though he already knew the answer. "We used the last backup power coupling 3 months ago when Section 7 had problems," Morden replied. "The supply ship from our homeworld is not due for another 6 months." The chief engineer walked to the main display screen and stared at the reactor schematic. Red warnings covered almost every system. If the reactor failed completely, it would not just shut down. It would explode. The blast would destroy the entire station and everyone on it. There had to be another way. "Sir," Morden said quietly, "what about asking for help from other species?" Zixtel's tentacles, which hung from his chin like a beard, twitched with annoyance. "The Corvan Empire is 3 weeks away, and they charge more than we make in a year. The Zilithian Federation does not trade with mining operations. The hegemony would just take our station." "What about the humans?" The question hung in the air like a bad smell. Zixtel had hoped no one would suggest the humans. Every civilized species in the galaxy knew about Earth's newest members. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 18 months ago. 18 months. Most species took decades or centuries to develop safe F technology. "The humans are primitives," Zixtel said, but his voice lacked conviction. "They barely understand basic space travel. What could they possibly know about Catherian reactor technology?" "They are the closest," Morden pointed out. "Only 6 days away." Zixtel had heard the stories about humans. They were violent and unpredictable. They had wars on their own planet right up until they reached the stars. Their ships were built like weapons instead of proper vessels. Their diplomats carried guns. What kind of civilized species did such things? But Morden was right about one thing. The humans were close. The chief engineer called up the navigation charts on his screen. Earth's territory was marked in yellow, a small bubble of space near their home system. According to galactic records, they had exactly 12 ships capable of interstellar travel, 12 ships for an entire species. It was almost embarrassing. "Sir, reactor pressure is rising again." Another technician called out from across the room. Zixtel looked at the readings and felt his stomach drop. They were running out of time faster than he had expected. In 36 hours, maybe less, the reactor would reach critical pressure. After that, nothing could stop the explosion. He thought about his family. His mate, Silara, worked in the hydroponics bay. His 2 younglings attended school in Section 5. 3,000 families just like his lived and worked on this station. They trusted him to keep them safe. "Open a communication channel to Earth," he said finally. Morden's eyes widened. "Sir, are you certain? Do we have any other choice?" The younger engineer began working at his console. After a few minutes, he looked up. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on standard galactic frequencies." Zixtel took a deep breath and activated the transmitter. He had never spoken to a human before. He wondered if they would even understand the Catherian language or if they used the standard translation protocols. "Human government," he began, feeling foolish. "This is Chief Engineer Zixtel of Mining Station Veltar in the Proxima System. We require immediate technical assistance. Our reactor core is destabilizing." We need replacement power coupling units and thermal regulators. Standard galactic payment rates apply. He ended the transmission and leaned back in his chair. Now? They could only wait and hope the humans would respond. If they responded at all, how long until we hear back? Morden asked. If they follow standard diplomatic protocols, maybe 12 hours, Zixtel replied. Assuming they have someone who can understand our request. They did not have to wait 12 hours. 3 hours later, the communication console chimed with an incoming message. Morden looked surprised as he opened the channel. A human face appeared on the screen. The alien looked young for his species, with brown hair and blue eyes. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though it was blue, instead of the green that Catherian intelligence reports had described. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Diplomatic Corps, the human said. His voice was calm and confident. We received your distress call and were already preparing a response. Help is on the way. Estimated arrival time, 6 days. The transmission ended before Zixtal could respond. He stared at the blank screen in confusion. 6 days was impossibly fast. Their fastest ships took 7 days to reach Earth from Proxima. How could the humans get here in 6 days? Sir, Morden said, did he say they were already preparing a response? How could they prepare anything in just 3 hours? Zixtal did not have an answer. Everything about the human response confused him. They had replied too quickly. They had not asked for details about payment. They had not even asked what kind of parts were needed. Maybe they did not understand our message properly, he said finally. Should we send another transmission? No, Zixtal looked at the reactor readings again. The pressure was still climbing, but they had bought themselves some time. We wait. If they arrive with the wrong parts, we will deal with that problem when it happens. But deep in his mind, a small voice wondered if maybe the galaxy had underestimated the humans. After all, how many primitive species could respond to an emergency in 3 hours? He pushed the thought away and returned to his work. In 6 days, they would find out exactly what kind of help Earth was sending. 6 days later, Zixtal was checking the reactor readings for the 100th time when Morden called out from the sensor station. Sir, we have a ship approaching. It's big. Zixtal hurried to the main display and felt his heart skip a beat. The ship dropping out of hyperspace was enormous. It was easily 3 times the size of their entire mining station. The sleek hull gleamed silver against the black of space, and it bristled with equipment he could not identify. That cannot be the human ship, he whispered. According to the identification signal, it is the UENS Voyager, Morden said, his voice filled with disbelief. Captain Morrison is requesting permission to dock. Zixtal stared at the massive vessel as it glided toward their station with perfect precision. This was not what he had expected from a primitive species. This was not a simple repair ship. This looked like something built by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Sir, they are also deploying smaller ships, another technician reported. 12 of them so far. The screen showed a fleet of smaller vessels emerging from the main ship like eggs from a nest. Each one was the size of a proper starship, and they moved with mechanical precision to surround the station. Are they surrounding us? Zixtal asked with growing alarm. I do not think so, sir. They appear to be scanning us. Before Zixtal could respond, Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. Mining Station Veltar, this is Captain Morrison. We are ready to begin repairs. My engineering team needs to come aboard to assess the situation. Permission to dock? Zixtal took a deep breath and activated the transmitter. Permission granted. Docking Bay 7 is available. Copy that. We will have a team aboard in 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, Zixtal stood in Docking Bay 7 and watched a human shuttle attached to their airlock. He had brought Morden and 3 other engineers with him. Mostly because he was not sure what to expect from their visitors, the airlock opened and Captain Morrison stepped through, followed by 4 other humans. The captain was tall for his species, with short brown hair and blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He wore a dark blue uniform with silver badges that caught the light. Behind him came a woman with black hair tied back in a practical style. Her uniform was different from the captain's, covered with pockets and tools. The other three humans carried equipment cases and wore similar work uniforms. Chief Engineer Zixtal? Morrison asked, extending his hand in what Zixtal knew was a human greeting gesture. Yes, that is me, Zixtal replied, carefully shaking the offered hand with one of his 4 arms. I am Captain Jake Morrison, and this is Chief Engineer Lisa Rodriguez, he gestured to the woman beside him. She and her team are here to fix your reactor problem. Rodriguez stepped forward and looked around the docking bay with professional interest. We brought the power coupling units and thermal regulators you requested, she said. But our scans showed you have bigger problems than just a failing reactor. Bigger problems? Zixtal asked. Your entire power grid is about 30 years out of date, Rodriguez explained. Your life support systems are running at 60% efficiency. Your computer cores are using crystal storage technology that went obsolete before my grandmother was born. She opened one of the equipment cases and pulled out a device Zixtal did not recognize. It was small and metallic, with lights that pulsed in a steady rhythm. This is a quantum processing unit, she continued. It can store and process more data than your entire station computer system. We brought 50 of them. Zixtal felt confused. But we only asked for replacement parts. Morrison smiled, and there was something predatory about the expression that made Zixtal nervous. We figured while we are here, we might as well fix everything else that is broken too. Fix everything? Standard. Human procedure, Rodriguez said cheerfully. If you are going to do a job, you might as well do it right. She turned to her team and began giving orders in rapid English. Zixtal's translator struggled to keep up, but he caught words like fusion reactor, shield generators, and quantum drives. Wait, he said, holding up all 4 arms. Fusion reactor? We did not ask for a new reactor. Your current reactor is going to fail again in 6 months, Rodriguez replied without looking up from her equipment. The crystal matrix is fractured in 17 places. We can patch it, but it will not last. Better to replace the whole thing. Replace the whole thing? Morden squeaked. We brought 3 portable fusion reactors, Morrison said casually. Each. One can power your entire station with enough energy left over to run a small city. Zixtal felt dizzy. This was not a repair mission. This was a complete reconstruction of their station. How much will this cost? He asked weakly. Same as we agreed on, Morrison replied. Standard galactic rates for the parts you requested, but you are doing much more than we requested. Morrison shrugged. The extra work is free. Think of it as an introduction to human engineering standards. Rodriguez had connected her scanner to one of the station's access panels and was frowning at the readings. Your atmospheric recycling system is also about to fail, she announced. Good thing we brought replacement filters, and air scrubbers, and emergency life support pods. You brought emergency life support pods? Zixtal asked faintly. We brought enough emergency supplies to keep your station running for 2 years, one of Rodriguez's team members said. He was a young man with red hair and freckles. Captain Morrison does not believe in taking chances, Morrison nodded. If, something is worth doing, it is worth overdoing. Over the next hour, Zixtal watched in amazement as the humans unloaded equipment he had never seen before. Portable reactors that hummed with contained power. Computer systems that looked like they belonged on a battleship. Shield generators that could protect the station from asteroid impacts. Hydroponic systems that could grow enough food to feed twice their current population. How did you build all of this so quickly? He asked Morrison as they watched Rodriguez's team begin installing new power conduits. Build it? Morrison looked confused. We did not build any of this. This is all standard equipment from our supply warehouses. Standard equipment? Every human ship carries enough spare parts to rebuild whatever they might encounter, Morrison explained. Rodriguez insisted on bringing the full engineering package. She said Catherian technology looked interesting and she wanted to see what improvements were possible. Zixtal looked around at the organized chaos of human engineers working throughout his station. They moved with a confidence and efficiency he had never seen from any species. They did not just fix problems, they eliminated them completely and prevented new ones from happening. "Captain Morrison," he said quietly, "how many species have you helped like this?" Morrison thought for a moment. "You are the first to ask for help. Most species we have met prefer to handle their own problems. And if others ask for help, then we would help them too," Morrison said simply. "That is what neighbors do." Zixtel realized that everything the galaxy thought about humans was wrong. They were not primitive. They were not unpredictable. They were something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. They were generous. The work had been going on for 2 days, and Zixtal was beginning to understand why humans had achieved so much in such a short time. They simply did not stop working. He watched Rodriguez and her team install the third fusion reactor in the station's power core. They had been working for 14 hours straight without any sign of fatigue. Meanwhile, his own engineering crew was exhausted after just 6 hours of helping with the installation. How do they maintain such energy? Morden asked, rubbing his tired eyes with 2 of his hands, before Zixtel could answer. One of the human engineers approached them. This one was different from the others, smaller and younger, with black hair and a friendly smile. He carried a steaming cup in his hands, and the air around him smelled strange, but pleasant. "You guys look tired," the human said. His name badge. "Reed Danny Chung, maintenance chief. Want some coffee?" "Coffee?" Zixtel asked. His translator struggled with the word. "Human beverage," Danny explained. He took a sip from his cup and sighed happily. "Keeps you alert and focused. Perfect for long work shifts." Zixtel looked at the dark liquid in Danny's cup with curiosity. "Is this some kind of medicine?" Danny laughed. "Sort of. We drink it every day, multiple times a day, actually." He reached into his tool belt and pulled out a small metal container. "I brought extra. Want to try some?" Morden stepped back nervously. "Is it safe for our species?" "That is a good question," Danny said. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "Hey, Doc Parker, can Catherians drink coffee?" A woman's voice answered immediately. "Dr. Amy Parker here. Based on their physiology, small amounts should be fine. Start with half a human serving and monitor their reaction." Danny smiled and poured some of the coffee into a smaller cup. He handed it to Zixtel. "Just a small sip at first." Zixtel sniffed the liquid. It smelled bitter, but somehow appealing. He took a careful sip and felt the warm liquid spread through his mouth. The taste was strange, bitter, but with underlying flavors he could not identify. "How do you feel?" Danny asked. "Different," Zixtel replied honestly. "My head feels clearer somehow." Within minutes, Zixtal noticed that his fatigue had disappeared completely. His thoughts felt sharper and more focused. The complex engineering problems that had been troubling him suddenly seemed easier to understand. "This is remarkable," he sighed, staring at the cup in wonder. Danny grinned. "Welcome to human productivity enhancement." Word spread quickly through the station. Soon, a steady stream of Catherian workers was visiting the human areas, hoping to try this magical beverage called coffee. Danny Chun became the most popular human on the station as he shared his seemingly endless supply. The effects were immediate and dramatic. Catherian workers who had been struggling with fatigue were suddenly working at triple their normal speed. Engineering problems that had puzzled them for hours were solved in minutes. The entire station seemed to come alive with new energy. "Sir," Morden reported to Zixtel on the 3rd day, "productivity in all sections is up by 35%. The workers are focused and alert like never before." Zixtel nodded, sipping his own cup of coffee. He was on his 4th cup of the day and felt better than he had in years. "What does Dr. Parker say about the long-term effects?" Dr. Amy Parker had arrived with the 2nd wave of human personnel. She was a small woman with brown hair and intelligent green eyes who seemed fascinated by everything about Catherian biology. She had set up a temporary medical station to monitor the aliens' reaction to coffee. "Dr. Parker says the effects are completely safe," Morden continued. "She has been studying our brain chemistry and says Coffee enhances our natural cognitive functions without any harmful side effects. Better than safe, Dr. Parker's voice said behind them. She approached with a tablet full of data and excited expression. Coffee affects Cytherian physiology differently than human physiology. For you, it is like a perfect mental enhancement drug. Enhancement drug? Zixtal asked with concern. Nothing dangerous, Dr. Parker assured him quickly. Your brain chemistry processes caffeine more efficiently than humans do. You get all the alertness and focus benefits with none of the jitters or crashes that humans sometimes experience. She showed them her tablet, which displayed complex charts and graphs. Your reaction time is faster, your memory retention is improved, and your problem-solving abilities are enhanced. Honestly, I am amazed by the results. Is this why humans work so efficiently? Zixtal asked. Dr. Parker smiled. Partly. Though for us, coffee is just normal. We have been drinking it for centuries. You are experiencing what we would call a very good day, but sustained. Genny Chung joined their conversation, carrying his ever-present cup of coffee. Speaking of which, we are going to need to set up a proper coffee station for you guys. My personal supply is running low. You brought limited coffee? Morden asked with what sounded like panic. Do not worry, Danny laughed. Captain Morrison anticipated this might happen. We have enough coffee beans on the ship to supply your entire station for 6 months. Plus, we brought 3 industrial-grade coffee makers. Within hours, the humans had installed a coffee station in the station's main recreation area. It was a gleaming machine that looked more advanced than some of Zixtal's engineering equipment. Danny gave lessons on proper coffee preparation to a crowd of eager Cytherian students. The key is the water temperature, Danny explained as he demonstrated the machine. Too hot and you burn the beans. Too cold and you do not extract enough flavor, and always use fresh beans. The Cytherians took notes like they were learning advanced engineering principles. What about these fresh beans you mention? Asked Solara, Zixtal's mate. She had joined the coffee classes after experiencing the beverage's effects in the hydroponics bay. We grow coffee on Earth, Danny replied. Different regions produce different flavors. This batch is from a place called Colombia. Very smooth, with chocolate undertones? Chocolate? Several Cytherians asked at once. Danny grinned. That is another Earth treat you might enjoy. By the end of the week, the entire station was running on coffee. Work shifts that had previously required 8 hours were being completed in 5. Complex repairs that had taken days were finished in hours. The Cytherians were experiencing productivity levels they had never imagined possible. We are working faster than ever before, Zixtal reported to Captain Morrison. The repairs that should have taken 3 weeks are almost complete. Morrison nodded approvingly. Good to hear. Rodriguez says you are natural engineers. The coffee just helps you think at your full potential. Is this how humans always work? Zixtal asked. Pretty much, Morrison replied. Though we also take breaks. You might want to consider that. Even with coffee, rest is important. Rest? Zixtal looked confused. But we feel so energetic. Dr. Parker, who had been listening to their conversation, stepped forward. That is exactly why you need to be careful. Coffee enhances your abilities, but your bodies still need recovery. Time. I recommend no more than 6 cups per day and always get a full sleep cycle. 6 cups? Zixtal asked hopefully. Maximum, Dr. Parker said firmly. I am creating a proper dosage guide for your species. We do not want anyone overdoing it. As Zixtal watched his people work with unprecedented efficiency and enthusiasm, he realized something important. The humans had not just brought them new technology and repairs. They had brought them a new way of living, a way of working that was faster, smarter, and more focused than anything his people had ever experienced, and they had done it by sharing something as simple as a beverage. The alarm started blaring at exactly 0800 station time on the 7th day of repairs. Zixtal was in the main engineering bay, watching Rodriguez's team install the final components of their new shield system when the sound cut through the air like a knife. Contact alert, the station's computer announced in its calm mechanical voice. Multiple ships approaching at high speed. Zixtel felt his coffee cup slip from his hands as he rushed to the nearest sensor station. The display showed 12 red dots moving toward them from the edge of the system. The computer was already analyzing their signatures, and the results made his blood turn cold. Hegemony raiders, he whispered. Morden appeared beside him, his face pale with fear. How did they know we were here? They must have been monitoring. Communications, Zixtel replied, though something felt wrong about the timing. The hegemony ships had appeared exactly when the station repairs were almost complete. Almost like they had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. All human personnel report to stations immediately. This is not a drill, Rodriguez looked up from her work with concern. Captain, what is the situation? 12 hegemony cruisers inbound, Morrison replied over the radio. Estimated arrival time, 4 hours. The human engineers stopped their work and began packing their equipment with swift efficiency. Zixtel watched them with growing panic. If the humans left now, the station would be defenseless. Captain Morrison, he called out, activating the communication panel. Please, you cannot abandon us now. The hegemony will destroy everything. Morrison's response was calm and measured. Chief Engineer Zixtel, we are not abandoning anyone. Please report to the main docking bay. We need to discuss defensive options. Defensive options? Zixtel felt confused as he made his way to the docking bay. What defensive options could they possibly have against 12 hegemony warships? He found Morrison waiting for him along with Rodriguez and Dr. Parker. The captain looked calm, almost relaxed, which made Zixtel even more nervous. Sir, Zixtel began, our defensive systems are minimal. We have basic shield generators and 2 small plasma cannons. We cannot fight 12 hegemony cruisers. You are right, Morrison agreed. Your current defenses would not last 5 minutes against a hegemony attack. Then what can we do? Morrison smiled, and there was something in that expression that reminded Zixtel of a predator. How do you feel about unexpected upgrades to your defensive capabilities? What do you mean? Instead of answering, Morrison activated his risk communicator. Bridge, this is Morrison. Begin deployment of defensive perimeter. Authorization code 77. Alpha. Through the docking bay windows. Zixtel watched in amazement as the human ship began releasing dozens of objects into space. They looked like the mining drones he had seen earlier, but as they spread out around the station, he realized they were something entirely different. Are those weapons platforms? He asked in disbelief. Automated defense drones, Rodriguez replied cheerfully. Each one carries enough firepower to disable a hegemony cruiser. But you said you were an engineering ship, Morden protested. We are, Morrison confirmed. But after what happened to the colony on New Geneva last year, Earth Command decided that all our ships needed better protection. Dr. Parker checked her tablet and looked up with professional interest. The hegemony has a history of attacking civilian targets. When we received your distress call, we considered the possibility that your reactor failure might not have been an accident. Zixtel felt a chill run down his spine. You think they sabotaged our reactor? The timing is suspicious, Morrison said. Station develops critical problems, calls for help, and then pirates arrive just as repairs are finishing. Either it is an amazing coincidence or someone has been planning this attack for weeks. The implications hit Zixtel like a physical blow. If the humans were right, then someone had tried to murder 3,000 innocent people just to rob a mining station. The thought made him sick. Sir, a voice called from the communication system. Enemy ships will be in weapons range in 90 minutes, Morrison nodded calmly. Understood. Continue deployment. Zixtel watched through the windows as more defense platforms emerged from the human ship. They moved with mechanical precision, forming a protective sphere around the mining station. Each platform was roughly the size of a shuttle, but bristled with weapons and sensor arrays he could not identify. How many platforms do you have? He asked. 48, Rodriguez replied, plus the ship's main armament. Main armament? Morrison gestured toward the massive human vessel. The Voyager carries enough firepower to level a small moon. We prefer. Not to advertise that fact, but desperate times call for desperate measures. As if responding to his words, panels on the ship's hull began sliding open to reveal weapon systems that looked like nothing Zixtal had ever seen. Massive cannon barrels emerged from hidden compartments, while missile launchers rose from the ship's spine like the spines of some enormous predator. "This is not an engineering ship," Zixtal said weakly. "It is an engineering ship," Morrison corrected. "It just happens to be an engineering ship that can defend itself." Dr. Parker looked up from her tablet again. "Our long-range scanners are getting detailed readings on the incoming fleet. 12 hegemony heavy cruisers armed with plasma cannons and torpedo launchers. Standard pirate configuration." "Standard?" Morden squeaked. "We have fought the hegemony before," Morrison explained. "They attacked a human freight convoy near the Centauri system 6 months ago. Big mistake on their part." "What happened?" Morrison's smile turned cold. "We taught them that humans do not make good victims." The next hour passed in tense preparation. Zixtal watched human technicians make final adjustments to the defense platforms while the massive ship continued to reveal hidden weapon systems. It was like watching a peaceful merchant vessel transform into a warship before his eyes. "Contact in 30 minutes, the ship's computer announced. Morrison activated the station-wide communication system. "Attention all personnel. We are about to engage hostile forces. All non-essential personnel should move to the station's central sections. This will be over quickly." Zixtal found himself believing the captain's confident words. The human preparations had been thorough and professional. They had turned his helpless mining station into a fortress in just a few hours. "Captain," he said quietly, "why did you really come here?" Morrison looked at him with serious eyes. "Because you asked for help? And humans do not leave people in danger. Even though we are not your species?" "Especially because you are not our species," Dr. Parker said. "The galaxy is a dangerous place. Civilized people need to stick together." The communication system crackled to life with a new voice. This one was harsh and aggressive, speaking in the guttural language of the hegemony. "Mining station, this is Warlord Krath of the hegemony fleet. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your station." Morrison walked calmly to the communication panel and responded in perfect hegemony dialect. "Warlord Krath, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Navy. You are approaching a station under human protection. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." There was a long pause before Krath responded, and when he did, his voice carried a note of uncertainty. "Humans? What are humans doing in this system?" Morrison's smile was sharp as a blade. "Defending our friends." The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. Zixtal watched from the station's main observation deck as the hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect attack formation. 12 heavy cruisers, each one larger than his entire mining station. Their black hulls marked with the red symbols of their warrior clans. "Warlord." Krath's voice boomed across all communication frequencies. "Humans, you have made a grave mistake interfering in hegemony business. We will destroy your ship and take the station. Last chance to surrender." Captain Morrison's response was calm and professional. "Warlord Krath, this is your final warning. Withdraw from this system, or we will consider your presence an act of war against Earth." Krath's laughter was harsh and mocking. "One human ship against 12 hegemony cruisers? You are either very brave or very stupid." "Neither," Morrison replied, "just very prepared." The hegemony ships opened fire first, launching a barrage of plasma torpedoes that lit up space like angry stars. Zixtal gripped the observation deck railing and waited for the explosions that would tear his station apart. The explosions never came. Instead, the human defense platforms intercepted every single torpedo with weapons fire so precise it looked like a choreographed dance. Beams of blue energy reached out from the platforms and touched each incoming projectile, turning them into harmless clouds of dissipating gas. Impossible, Warlord Kraft snarled over the radio. No defense system is that accurate. Morrison's voice carried a note of amusement. You have never fought humans before, have you? What happened next made Zixtal question everything he thought. He knew about space combat. The human defense platforms did not just return fire, they systematically dismantled the hegemony fleet with surgical precision. Energy beams lanced out from the platforms and struck the enemy ships in exact locations that disabled their weapons without destroying the vessels. Each shot was perfectly calculated to remove a threat while leaving the crew alive. Within 5 minutes, 8 of the 12 hegemony cruisers were drifting helpless in space, their weapon systems destroyed and their engines offline. The remaining 4 ships tried to run. The UENS Voyager moved like nothing Zixtal had ever seen before. The massive ship accelerated faster than vessels half its size, and its weapons fired with accuracy that seemed to violate the laws of physics. 4 shots, 4 disabled ships. The entire hegemony fleet was neutralized without a single human weapon missing its target. This is impossible, Krath whispered over the radio, his earlier arrogance replaced by terror. No species has weapons this advanced. We do not consider these weapons particularly advanced, Morrison replied conversationally. These are standard defensive systems for human engineering vessels. Dr. Parker's voice came through the stations. Communication system. Captain, I am detecting distress signals from several of the disabled ships. They have casualties but no fatalities. Understood. Deploy medical drones to assist wounded enemy personnel. Zixtal watched in amazement as small drones emerged from the human ship and began approaching the disabled hegemony vessels. Even after being attacked, the humans were offering medical aid to their enemies. Why are you helping us? Krath asked, his voice filled with confusion. Because wounded people need medical attention, Morrison replied simply. The fact that you tried to kill us does not change that. Rodriguez joined Zixtal at the observation deck, carrying her ever-present cup of coffee. She looked completely relaxed, as if watching space battles was a normal part of her day. Is it always like this when humans fight? Zixtal asked. Fight? Rodriguez looked surprised. This was not a fight. This was a demonstration. A demonstration? We could have destroyed their entire fleet in 30 seconds, she explained. Instead, we disabled them and offered medical assistance. Captain Morrison prefers to make educational points rather than create martyrs. Over the next few hours, Zixtal learned what human efficiency really meant. Medical drones treated the wounded hegemony crew members with the same care they would give to human casualties. Engineering drones began repairing the disabled ships enough to make them space-worthy. Supply drones delivered food and medical supplies to vessels that had been trying to destroy them just hours earlier. This is not how wars are supposed to work, Morden said as he watched human drones fix a hegemony engine system. Dr. Parker overheard him and smiled. Humans do not like wars. We prefer to solve problems permanently. By destroying your enemies? By turning enemies into people who owe us favors, she replied. Much more effective in the long run. Captain Morrison called Zixtal to the communication center for the final negotiations with Warlord Krath. The hegemony leader appeared on screen looking defeated and confused, his earlier confidence completely gone. Human captain, Krath said. Slowly, I do not understand your actions. You defeated us completely but did not destroy us. You offered medical aid to warriors who tried to kill you. Why? Morrison leaned back in his chair and studied the alien warlord. Because we want you to tell every other hegemony leader exactly what happened here today. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them that humans do not make good enemies. Tell them that we have better weapons, better technology, and better medical care than anyone in the galaxy. Tell them that we are willing to share all of these things with species that choose to be our friends. Krath was quiet for a long moment. And if we choose to remain enemies? Morrison's smile was friendly, but his eyes were cold. Then tell them what happened to your fleet today. And remind them that this was just one human ship, and we have hundreds more. After the hegemony ships limped away with their repairs and medical supplies, life on the mining station began to return to normal. Except normal was now completely different than it had been 2 weeks earlier. The new fusion reactors provided clean, unlimited power. The upgraded computer systems processed data faster than the Catherians could use it. The hydroponic gardens grew enough food to feed twice their population. The defensive systems could protect them from any reasonable threat, and everyone was. Addicted to coffee? Captain Morrison, Zixtal said as the human team prepared to depart. How do we thank you for all of this? You do not need to thank us, Morrison replied. Just remember that humans are good neighbors to have. Rodriguez handed him a farewell gift, a professional-grade coffee maker and a 6-month supply of premium beans. Consider it a diplomatic gesture. As the UNS Voyager prepared to jump to hyperspace, Dr. Parker transmitted her final report to the station. Her findings would soon be shared throughout the galaxy, and the implications would change everything. When dealing with humans, her report concluded, be very specific about what you want. Ask for repairs, and they will rebuild your entire civilization. Ask for help, and they will move mountains. Ask for anything, and be prepared for them to give you everything you did not know you needed. Zixtal watched the human ship disappear into hyperspace and realized that his people's first contact with humanity would become legendary. Not because of the technology they had received, or the battle they had witnessed, but because of the lesson they had learned. Humans did not just solve problems. They eliminated them so completely that they never came back, within months. Human standard became common language throughout the galaxy. It meant exceeding expectations by several orders of magnitude. It meant doing a job so thoroughly that it never needed to be done again, and it meant that when humans offered to help, smart species said yes immediately. The coffee trade, meanwhile, became one of Earth's most profitable exports.